In most cases, no, I'd have to say to that. In most cases, no. For instance, if I was a young man, I would have to go and live for most of my teenage life and my young adult life on my wife's clan's land. So I'd have to leave my own lands and go and live with my mother's brother's family, my ngapabi, my uncle, on my mother's brother's land, so my mother's land. I'd call it my mother's land. And I would have to work for them, and I would almost be enslaved to them. I'd have to do what they told me to do, when they told me to do it, to do the hard work, to do the catching the large animals and so forth, and providing. I had to make their production areas productive, growing their plants, growing their animals and so forth. This was all under the care and you could say the apprenticeship of my uncle, my mother's brother. I would be called the Yoto, the child. My mother's people would be called the Yindi. And both my mother's people and my mother's people, I'd call them the Yindi Pulo. Now Yindi, the word Yindi means the big people in my life. So in a sense, I was less than they were. They were more than me as a young or male person growing up and into adult life. My big people in my life were my mother's people. I would be their manager, I would be their labourer, I would be their soldier, I would be their lawyer, I would be their everything. They would call on me to do the tough work, the ceremonial work, to organise this, organise that, and so on. So if anyone was enslaved, it was more like the young men. And I would live on my uncle's lands, estates, until my first born children were old enough to come under the law, about 13 to 15 years of age. And then I would move back to my own estate lands in sort of semi-retirement. So it was both ways. And because I was living on my uncle's estate, and I would be marrying his daughters, cousins, first cousin on my mother's side, I would treat my wives to be like princesses. My mother-in-law I would treat like the queen. I would talk to her and give her respect like she was the queen herself. So, yeah, very different society to what we understand in general terms about the original Australian culture and the role of women.